We'll do is start on that side, go around and introduce ourselves, please.
Jennifer Gossick, City Clerk.
Todd Eckes, Fire Chief.
Matt Zacher, Alderman, 3rd District.
Tom Roma, Alderperson, 4th District, member of the committee.
Dennis Pollock, Alderman, 6th Ward.
Dean Veneman, Alderman,
Jay Bemke, go ahead.
and Council President.
Jay Bemke, District 8 and Legislative Chair.
Sue Shell, City Attorney.
Thank you. Call the meeting to order at 5 o'clock. Item number 2, consider for adoption an ordinance to allow all-terrain vehicles and utility terrain vehicles to operate on city streets other than state highways. Sue, do you want to go through the ordinance a little bit?
I put this ordinance together based upon the last meeting that we had, and also recommendations from the Health Department and in hearing from the ATV groups. And I sent this to Brian. Is Brian here? Yes. From the ATV group, and he said that they were fine with it, right? And he had sent it to the state chapter for the state. Okay. Yeah. And he was fine. He was okay. So basically, it's allowing. I didn't put any of the definitions regarding what an ATV is, what a UTV is. That's all found in the state statute. So I thought, some of those definitions didn't need to clutter up the ordinance. Basically, so it's adopting state laws regarding, the basics of ATVs and UTVs, including their definitions. Then it designates every street, basically, in the city as an ATV or UTV route, except the highways of 13, 54, and 73. You can, though, cross those highways when it is safe to do so. There's an hour limitation of can't be between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. An age requirement that all operators should be 16 years of age or older. Speed limit not greater than 35 miles per hour, or the speed limit for whatever the automobile has, whichever is lower. And then there's a number of restrictions based on the Marshfield ordinance. I looked at Grand Rapids. I looked at about 4 or 5 other cities' ordinances. If the street's closed, obviously you can't be on the UTV on that street. Have to abide by all traffic laws. Single file, stay to the right, stay off of the bike lane. I know in some instances, I guess when you're, yielding the right of way, that is allowed then to go over to the bike lane, but as a general rule, just to stay off the bike lanes. Passengers and the operator have to be in the location that's designated for passengers, obviously. No drinking alcohol, no possession of any open container. You need headlights, taillights, and brake lights, and the headlights and taillights have to be on at all times during operation. Can't operate it carelessly. Yields to other vehicular traffic, including non-motorized vehicles, bikes, and pedestrians. You can't modify it to make it wider. Can't leave it unattended with the motor running or with the starting key in the ignition on any street. Has to meet the noise and air pollution standards. If you're under 18, you have to wear headgear. Have to have seatbelts on UTVs, and no studded tires or tire chains on any street. So every person has to have a valid driver's license. Everyone has to have insurance, the same as you would in operating any other vehicle in the state. I believe that includes minimums of, I think it's only $25,000. It's a kind of a small amount, but And that documentation has to be on the person operating. Anyone, and this is a state law, anyone born after January 1 of 1988 has to have a safety certificate. And the ATV should be registered in accordance with DNR regulations. Maintenance of roads, that's basically just basically saying that the city doesn't create any more duty of care to the UTV or ATV just because we're allowing them on the street. You assume the risk of operating those ATV, UTVs. We don't accept any liability for you operating. And we kept retaining the right to close any street for a special event, repair, hazards, or other reasons without notice. And obviously, these routes could be revised or modified at any time by the city council. Nuisance activity, I noticed a couple had these cruising things where when you're just driving back and forth, really serving no legitimate purpose, that would be considered nuisance and it could be a violation. And then there's also regarding exhaust and muffler to make sure that it's maintained and there isn't any excessive noise or smoke. And then radios, blasting your radio on the ATV or UTV or some other amplification too loudly might be considered a violation. Signage, we'll erect signs on all streets that have not been designated as ATV, UTV routes. And hopefully the city and the groups can work together in doing the maps and such that show these routes. And enforcement, that's just basic enforcement. This will be a local ordinance, but the majority of these rules are actually state rules too, so it could be a state enforcement issue. Penalties, fine of between $50 and $500. And the effective date, I just put in January 1 of 2024. I don't know, the signs will have to get up. Might take 2 readings of this ordinance to pass if it is passed. So that date, I'm not sure how many UTVs are in the middle of the winter anyways, but so that I just put in, I'm not sure what you might want to change that to something sooner or even later. So that's the ordinance.
Thank you, Sue. Committee members, questions or comments? Tom, Matt? No comment? Matt?
When it comes to the headlights, taillights, brake lights, does that also include signals?
No, it does not. I think probably the vast majority do not probably have signals, nor are they required by state law to, or I don't know, maybe some, maybe have it. I know you can do it aftermarket, right? Yeah. 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 I didn't see any city ordinances that required signal lights. I think because a lot of them do not. It probably might be, I'm sure you would, more would not be allowed, but if that's an issue, then you could require it, and I don't know, maybe they might probably have a comment on that, but no, it does not require signal lights.
So there are aftermarket signal lights that can be installed? You should probably talk into the mic. Thanks. Make sure the green light's on, please.
Hello?
Good.
Yeah, so there are.
Excuse me, could you state your name and address just for the?
Oh, yes, Brian Marsh, 221 2 Mile Avenue, Wisconsin Rapids. Yeah, for quite a few machines, there are kits that can be plugged in and utilized for them. There's aftermarket kits as well that are made that you can do. Some are easier than others, some are kind of complicated to install, so, but there's potential options out there. I don't know of any other location that requires you to have blinkers, just throwing it out there. Most places, in the ordinance, you have to use hand signals when you turn, just like a motorcycle. It's not required necessarily for all motorcycles. They have to use hand signals if they don't have them. So it kind of falls into the same realm of hand signaling as a motorcycle does. But there's more and more nowadays that are coming out with them because it's not just in Wisconsin, it's all over the place, all over the country. There's way bigger locations, way bigger cities than us by far that allow them on their street every single day everywhere. And the industry's seeing a lot more of that, and they're seeing a lot more people wanting blinkers, so there are more machines that come factory with blinkers on them right away. And DOT windshield, DOT tires, the whole 9 yards, they're really kind of more becoming a road vehicle setup for people who are operating them on a regular basis.
Okay, in your opinion, is it just safer if you have a bunch of these going around for blinkers?
I have never noticed an issue. I mean, the brake lights are the biggie. Most of the time I see people operating with their hand signals like they should. Very rarely do I see somebody who's not, but that could be an issue. But I haven't, in all my discussions with the neighboring locations, all the places I've talked to, nobody ever mentioned turn signals or people turning being an issue that they've had. So I don't think so.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anything else?
Yeah, I have some. So, item K, or is that a state where it says no ATV may be operated? It says on federal noise. Is that federal noise and air pollution? Do we have is federal and state the same?
I'm thinking that was taken from, that might even be in the state statute specifically. Let me,
Is that the only question?
Huh?
Is that your only question?
Yeah.
Maybe while we're waiting, Tom, nothing, Dennis, questions or comments? I think what we'll do is we'll open up the floor for public comment. Anybody that's interested in speaking, please limit your comments to around 2 minutes. When you come up to the mic, make sure the green light is on and state your name and address, please. So, anybody that's interested in speaking?
I know you were mentioning about signal lights. ATVs really don't have a spot to put signal lights. So I mean, with ATV, UTV, that's kind of a tough call there because, you know, you don't have anywhere to mount it. Unless you mount like the old bicycles back in the day was, you know what I mean? But anyways, with the emissions and everything like that, all of them are government, that's the way they come out of, just like a vehicle. So their emission free is pretty much any vehicle is nowadays. I know I had a gentleman back here ask me that if you do open, are you guys gonna have like any kind of a map or anything you're gonna put out? Because I know the city of Marshfield did, and that one's kind of confusing. They have 2 different color blue lines, so you don't know what the heck's going on there. And I know you also mentioned about, sound and everything like that there. I know, to be honest with you, the only way that they get louder is they modify them. And you see those, what do they call them, quad runners? That's some little bitty ones that, but them usually don't go on the roads anyways, they stay out in the field or whatever like that there, so. I mean, other than that, well, I don't know what else to say there. I know last time we had a meeting up here, you mentioned something about how loud they get. I'll be honest with you, every one of you has something louder in your garage right now. They call it a riding lawnmower. And something even louder than that, it's a higher pitch, a leaf blower. I mean, our ATVs, most of us have UTVs nowadays. I mean, in our club, we have like 72 people. I think there's only 2 people that have ATVs anymore. So I mean, we got out of the ATV thing. And nowadays, these are actually safer than cars because we do have a whole roll cage and everything in there, fully enclosed. I mean, they are, I don't know if you guys have ever been in one or not. If you want to, give me a call, I'll take you for a ride in mine sometime. Let you take it for a ride. And I tell you what, I've heard of people out in the woods just years ago, rolling them or whatever, pushing back on their tires and they take off again. Not that that would be happening hear anything, it's just showing how safe they actually are. And I know like doors on mine, 3 inches thick, so they are very, very solid vehicles. I mean, I don't know if I have anything else to say. I know you mentioned about the signal lights and stuff. No, it's not mandatory, because I know when we first started, they were off-road vehicles. And at first, you could not put them on an ATV, or no ATVs, and UTVs were kind of tough. And I know, and I've talked to some people, they got like in a car where you turn the signal, but you get in the woods and you start driving, and that signal light's going from side to side, people trying to follow you, they're wondering, where the heck is this clown going? So, I mean, the rest of it, yeah, I don't know what else to say after that. I think that's about it. Unless if I hear somebody else talk, so if I come back up again, it might jog my memory, so.
Sure.
Otherwise, thanks for the time.
Thank you. Maybe Sue, I don't know if we discussed it or if it's in the packet someplace, but to address the issue of maps, I do believe that the comment is that the city would work with some of the clubs on a map.
Right, the, Marshfield needed a map because they have two different kind of routes. One is these streets can be used by UTV, ATVs, and then the rest of the streets, which are the majority of the streets, are supposed to be used to kind of get from, just kind of to drive through to get to the nearest route. And it's kind of ridiculous to, as far as I'm concerned, to, I mean, are you going to be stopping people to say, where are you going to and from if you're on that street? I mean, then you're just, so plus, like you said, the map is 2 different shades of blue, which is, so that's why I guess I think I don't know if I talked to, well, I know I talked to the mayor, and that's why I put in the ordinance that it's, that all, you know, if you're going to, it's kind of an all or nothing. I don't think you need to differentiate between what streets are main and what streets are not, because we're not going to be policing like why people are on certain streets. So basically our map, which is not completed, but the map is just simply going to be all streets, and then there'll just be the highway, you know, the 3 highways, which won't be. So it'll be a pretty simple map. But yeah, like for what the groups do in the counties or whoever is put together those nice maps to hand out, and then that will, you know, we'll work with them if they need any of our information, but it's going to be a pretty simple map.
Go ahead.
And just to touch base on the maps too, I have the contact for, a lot of people use the Polaris Ride Command app. It's an app that comes on a lot of the Polaris machines, but you can download it on your phone. It's free. It tracks you where you're going. You can route on it. So a lot of people use that. I have the contact for the gentleman who runs that division for Polaris. So I can get signed up to input that onto the Ride Command app as well. Wood County has their own map that shows everything that's currently open, and they're pretty good about updating it, as well as the Wisconsin Rapids, I want to say Chamber of Commerce, but it's the,
Convention and Visitors Bureau.
the Visitors Bureau. They are currently, and they have been for a long time, paying for being on an app with that WATFA supports, that puts us on as it just shows us as a destination that they can't currently get to, but they're hopeful that if we do open up, they'll be able to, they will put them on that map as well. So there's many locations, but again, I got plenty of contacts. We can kind of try to get some stuff out there working, but opening everything up makes it much simpler where people just kind of know, like, and every road that they can go on is going to be marked. So essentially, it makes it a lot easier and a lot less work for anybody having to mess with trying to get stuff out there for people.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public would like to step up? Any other comments from the committee or council? If not, what are the wishes of the committee?
I just have, okay, so if we make this motion, if we wanted to, we could make the signals, turn signals, as a city, we could make a mandatory, even though the state doesn't make a mandatory?
I believe you could, yes. You can be more restrictive in that regard.
I guess I don't necessarily want to hold it up. Like, I'd like to move it to the city council. I still think signals are just safer. They're safer than hand signals and confusing if we got a bunch of people out there. with these vehicles and all of a sudden hand signals are the ones being used. I don't know, seems more dangerous to me.
Well, I
But-
think the other issue with the hand signals that was brought up was, some of these operating hours are in the dark. So, some of the hours that we have for operation are, you're in the dark. It's 7 AM to 10 PM. It's dark out by 8 o'clock. I mean, that could potentially be a concern.
So if I, again, this is just my take on it. I would make a motion to pass the ordinance with the added that we make turn signals mandatory. Is that,
Sue? Sue? We can accept that motion? All right, there's a motion on the floor to approve this and adding signal lights within the city limits. Is there a second? I'll second it. All those in favor say aye.
I,
Aye. Opposed? Aye. Ayes have it, 2-0.
You meant to say nay, right?
I knew what you meant. Sure, come on up.
I just want to throw it out there that I get it. I do agree. It probably is a safer scenario. That's really going to limit a lot of people. And people coming, especially one of the purposes to be able to bring revenue in, it's not required anywhere that I'm aware of. Anywhere. And it's not been an issue. I agree. It probably is safer, but it has not been an issue that I've heard anything of from anybody I've talked to. It really is going to limit the individuals who are going to, and cause problems, because a lot of people who are going to be coming through are going to see the trails and not realize you have to have blinkers on. One reason I push for trying to keep it as close to the state as possible for what they put in there is because some people ride across for 8 hours and they can go across 10, 12 different counties. It's very, very hard to keep everything straight. And look, we have a very good written ordinance. I think it's really great. I definitely think the blinkers is not the best way to go just because it's not done anywhere else, and that pretty much, A, is going to force people to have to spend more money to install kits, buy kits, figure something out, and B, it's going to really hinder other people coming here, traveling, when they do find out that they have their blinkers. Then we're going to have issues. And it's unorthodox, nowhere else does it. So I just wanted to put that out there. It's an unusual thing, and I wouldn't recommend we go that way. And nobody else that I talked to would recommend that they do blinkers, so I'm just want to throw it out there.
Okay, thank you. You mind hanging around till after the meeting? Mind hanging around? I'd like to talk to you after the meeting just for a minute. Thank you. Come on up.
Okay, I know when you're saying with the ATVs, UTVs, because I say there's no place to put them on ATVs, so you may as well just scratch ATV right off the list, and anybody who has an ATV will not be able to do anything in town. That's kind of what we're looking at here. Even though we have the UTVs, we're looking for everybody as a group. So, we're not just concerned about ourselves. But if you say you have to have signal lights, I mean, if, say, Joe from Kokomo wants to take his brush to the brush pile, he can't even do that because he's illegal. Because you cannot mount them on as far as I know, I've never seen them mounted on an ATV yet. So, if you guys plan on doing that, you may as well just scratch ATV right off the list and just put UTV on there. Then you're going to have to update your signs where there's no ATV on there with the idiot sign through and switch everything to a UTV then. Because it's not going to be open to ATVs, if that's the way you guys are looking at it. That's about all I got for that. I mean, I've never seen them on, and I've talked to people, they say, no, you don't put them on ATVs. So it's something to consider, but thanks.
Thank you. Just so you know, the rest of the process is the entire council will take this up on, I believe, the 19th. Feel free to come up and discuss it then again. All righty? Thank you. Yep. Come on up.
Tom Muse, 541 Canal Street here in town. I just want to kind of add to the signal light thing and a few other topics that are in the ordinance, make it as quick as possible. We already have vehicles that are allowed to ride on the street or drive on the street that don't have signal lights. Even bicycles after dusk or during low light, they're suggested to have a flashing red light, but they don't have signals. They're not going to put signal lights on their hands when they're doing their hand suggestions. It still comes down to the motorized vehicles that are on the road. They do have headlights to be able to see that. We also have equipment amongst the city, so construction equipment that does not have signal lights that operate on the street. I guess it would be kind of a little additional hypocritical thing to require something from something that's being operated on the streets to our street equipment that's being operated without signal lights. As far as the last thing in the ordinance, as far as starting January 1st, I don't see why there should be any kind of delay on it. You had mentioned the street signs. I know that's going to cost quite a bit of money. I suggest opening them up right away for, the first of the next month and see how things go, see what kind of response you get from the road use, see what kind of complaints or traffic violations that you have up to that point to even realize if you need to spend the money on street signs. I'm assuming most of the individuals, especially in this meeting, they know the roads that they're needing to stay off of. If there's new people coming into the area, it's going to be something that they're going to look at maps before they come here to even figure out how to get through town. So as soon as you can get the maps out, or if there's a digital copy that can be provided, that'd be plenty enough. You don't actually have to go through and sign everything. That.
Thank you. All right, I guess with that, we'll move on to item number 3. Consider for an adoption of an ordinance amending sections of Chapter 18, the Fire Code. Chief Eckes.
Sue and I and Fire Marshal Lewis worked on this over probably the last couple months, but it's kind of a cleaning up of the ordinance and then with some elimination of some things that have been, quite honestly, headaches. So first thing was, it was referenced to deputy fire chief. While our fire marshal doesn't necessarily always the deputy fire chief, it's who's ever that division chief of fire. So to clean that up, anytime you see deputy fire chief in here, it's going to get changed to fire marshal. That way whoever's in that position has that authority. So the rest of it is kind of cleaning up, referencing state statutes and ordinances that are current with changes in our ordinances. Sometimes there were some reference to some ordinances that were incorrect, so I don't know if you want to go line by line of the changes, but the fire chief or fire marshal or any designated officer of City of Wisconsin Rapids who presents credentials, this is basically giving them authority to do inspections, and when hindered, it gives them the option of the warrant, to get a warrant to do inspections. And again, that references a state statute. So by state statute, they have the authority to do fire inspections. That's on page 1. So page 2, again, just the change in the fire marshal to ensure that all buildings and premises are safe. Probably one of the other biggest changes was one of the things we wanted to add was we get a lot of non-compliance of people that just do not fix fire code violations. I shouldn't say a lot, but we get some that do not fix fire code violations. And as we researched, we're probably one of the only cities that does not charge for fire inspections. We're not saying we should charge for fire inspections. Fire inspections are actually covered under 2% dues at the state level. We'll do a fire inspection. Currently, we give them the ability to self-certify that fire inspection by sending a picture back to a link we give them. If that happens, everything's good. It's when they don't self-certify or we gotta go in there basically a third time, there's a fee then for that. Again, 2% dues cover the initial inspection and a re-inspection, but when we gotta go there a third, and fourth, and fifth time, those are the ones, and you can see that there's a fee schedule. We now have a fee schedule for everything that's charged. I actually included even our fee schedule for our ambulance so that it references one fee schedule for the fire department now instead of numerous ones. Fire reports, there used to be a charge for them. It's going to be pursuant to the ordinance, so. On page 3, the additions were, we added pellets to outdoor burning and refuse burning within the city. The ordinance does not apply to grilling. Well, we added pellets because of pellet stoves or pellet smokers, so that was the only reason that was added. Then you can see at the bottom of that page, the change in its reference was, the original reference was incorrect, so. Page 4, there was a lot of things that referenced the Department of Natural Resources, and actually the Department of Natural Resources, even in their own admission, can't tell you can't have a campfire as long as it's for heating or cooking purposes. So there may be times when we would, say fires aren't allowed, but I can't think of one time in my 17 or 18 years that we've ever not allowed a campfire in the city. I would say over the last weekend, if people would call and ask, I would definitely say, it's not a good idea, I would hold off. But underneath there, then we put a definition that probably whenever was in there before of what is a legal campfire. So obviously constantly supervised with somebody 18 years or older. They should have some type of way to extinguish it, and it should be extinguished before they walk away from the fire, so that's cold to the touch. Campfires are only permitted or are not permitted between 12 a.m. and 7 a.m., and they should be conducted in a safe manner. Nuisance-free, what it's basically getting to is if the wind's out of the north and your neighbor's house is to the south and they got their windows open, be cognizant of the fact and be good to your neighbor that you're not blowing all the smoke into their house, because you're doing it. So. Ceremonial fires, you can see we left in there. The only thing we did was we raised the fee, which hasn't been raised in 20 years or 30 years. So we got rid of, I'm proposing that we get rid of land clearing permits. Those things are nothing but a nuisance. Every time there's a land clearing permit we put out, we get complaints from the people around it as to the smoke, and most of the time they start the fire, they'll walk away, it's unattended, and it's sitting there smoldering for days and days and days. With the ability for composting and that stuff to be taken to compost sites, it's just a matter of they're going to have to haul it there, and that should be on whoever is clearing that land. So, page 5, and again, all the open burning it was just stricken out. Burning barrels, really, I mean, if you can't burn paper in the city and cardboard in the city, which is some of the things you can't burn, what's the sense of a burning barrel? So it was stuff that we cleaned out of the ordinance. You still have certain papers that are like things that could be critical to your background and stuff can still be burned. I would probably in small quantities and things that are critical, like checking papers and historical papers and things like that. Even nowadays with shredders, there would have to be some good reason why. So we have never in the 17 or 18 years have I ever had anybody ask to put a wood burning fireplace in, exterior wood burning place in. Even the restrictions on it, 100 feet from any closest building, 15 feet, above the ground surface with a chimney. We've never had anybody ask, and therefore, it was a suggestion that we take it right out of the ordinance and not allow them in the city. Some language under liability, anybody that's going to start a fire still has some liability as to the damage or personal property, including the cost of fire investigations. So that was added so that we could cover that also. Chapter 7, modification or variance to the City of Wisconsin Rapids Fire Code. Some language, any modification or variance may only be granted when there are particular difficulties. It's kind of like when you want a variance in your right-of-way, there's got to be a good reason why you're asking for that variance in building. Same thing. We did get rid of the pyrotechnics inside a building, even though there are some codes, some NFPA codes. These are huge structures, and we really don't have a structure in here that there should be any pyrotechnics inside a building. We also took the opportunity to get rid of free-floating sky lanterns. We never had an ordinance that had it in there. We're probably the only one around the area that allows these sky lanterns to be lit. There's a lot of liability. Those things go up, there's fire in them, they float, they come down, start fields on fire, it could start somebody's house on fire. So as long as we were redoing them, we wanted to include them in so that they couldn't be used within the city or even outside the city as they float in. And then that responsibility comes in also, so. Each applicant for a new or renewal on page 8 for a new or renewal liquor license shall have their licensed premises inspected by the fire department before a license may be issued. Again, we're trying to get ahead of the game here, and a lot of times I shouldn't say a lot of times, but sometimes what's happened in the past is somebody will apply for a liquor license, they'll get into business, we'll come in and do an inspection, and there's things that needed to be changed because it was an occupancy that wasn't, say, a bar before. We see it a lot more in businesses, that somebody takes a house and changes it into, say, an insurance company. Well, when you do that, you're changing the occupancy, and there's a lot of times there's fire codes that have to be changed, like doors that swing out and smoke detectors. And we walk in, do an inspection, and then, you know, they're mad because they didn't know that ahead of time, and now they've got some money stuck in that building. We're trying to eliminate that. Let them know ahead of time what it's going to take to make a business, in this instance, a liquor license in that business or that building ahead of time, so that they don't get that all of a sudden aha moment. Now you've got a bunch of things you got to change. So fire hydrants, one of the things that we wanted to add to that, even though we had it in the ordinance, you couldn't pile snow on top of it. We can't make people clean out hydrants. We highly suggest it, but there's been instances where people actually blow their snow onto the fire hydrant. So we added also obstructions of there. There's been a couple instances where people have gone out and planted shrubs around them because they didn't like the ugly fire hydrant in their front yard and wanted to make it look pretty with shrubs around it. So that's why we added the obstructions in there also. And then the false alarms at the end. These are ever increasing and are very time consuming, especially when we're going to the same place, sometimes 3 and 4 times a week. We always had an ordinance in there. It was always hard to determine what that cost was. So as part of the fee schedule, we determined a cost. The ordinance hasn't changed as to when they get charged. Just now is what is the fee, and now that we've got it in the fee schedule, and that can be found on the city website, it'll start to become enforced. Now, if we get a fire alarm on a day, and you know we get another one the next day, and we go there, and the guy says, "Listen, I called them, and they can't get here till Wednesday or Thursday," we're not going to charge them for that. All right? I mean, we've got to be smart about what we're doing here. But when they just refuse and they haven't called anybody, then that's just, you know, not doing the right thing. So. And that was the changes in there, so I highly support everything that we've gotten here. I think it, number one, cleans up the ordinance, and number two, can, in the long run, prevent a lot of problems in the future.
Matt, go ahead.
Chief, seems like this is a lot that changes quickly. Like I'm having a hard time, I've read it a few times, just trying to keep up on all the things we've been allowed to do for a long time. I guess I don't know if there's ever been, you know, this many no's, like you can't do this, you can't do that. I mean, it's kind of saying almost no to everything. And I don't know, I realize right now are dry as can be out there, but when it's not super dry, I guess why all of a sudden are we saying no to pretty much everything?
I don't think we're saying no to a lot of things other than what was there before. We're just defining them a little more. There are some things that I've asked to have taken out, land clearing permits, burning barrels. Nobody's ever asked for a permit for a burning barrel, and we're keeping something in there that's just not happening anymore. Again, like the outdoor fire or outdoor burning appliances, like the outdoor wood burners or whatever. Again, I've been here 17, going on 18 years, and nobody that I know of has ever asked to have one put in the city. So it's a lot of clearing up. Just realize that, again, in the 18 years I've been here, we've never looked at this or done anything with this ordinance before then too. So it's a lot, but it's been a long time since we looked at that ordinance to try to clean it up.
Do you think there's a lot of burning going on that isn't being permitted?
Oh, yeah. I can tell you of some addresses that we've been to 3 and 4 times. And when we get there, there's tires, baby diapers, trash in the garbage, in the burning ring. They don't answer the door. This has given us an avenue to be able to send certified letters or maybe have our new ordinance officer deliver that. We shouldn't, again, we're giving them plenty of opportunities before they're actually getting teeth put into the ordinance. So if we get called to somebody, and happens all the time, they start a fire and it's a neighbor dispute, we just tell them, go ahead and put the fire. They don't get charged a fine for that. It's when it becomes habitual that this starts to become a problem. And again, there's 2 or 3 addresses that we've gone to that are burning garbage. And like I said, a baby diaper, there was tires in one. Somebody had a whole wall of a shed on top of a burning ring. I mean, there's got to be some ordinance. There's got to be some enforcement of it. Otherwise, it's a free-for-all.
But I guess I mean, it's hard. It's not like I want people burning stuff that they shouldn't. I guess my fear is that we're going overboard, but my other question is, with the authority to enter premises, just reading what the old one was, private dwellings shall not be entered without the consent or permission of an adult occupant and do not typically fall within the purview of the fire department. Did something change at the state level there, or why was it?
We still can't enter anything R2 and below unless we have permission from the resident of the property. We don't do private inspections. This is only in businesses.
Okay.
Businesses or an R3 and above, which is basically a triplex, or not, it's like a triplex, and it's a rental that somebody is probably renting it out to different families. That is all in state statute. We're just cleaning up language there and referencing state statute on what we are allowed to enter into.
So you're saying this whole 18.041 is all about just businesses? It doesn't have anything to do with,
What page are you on?
sorry, page 1, section 3. Yeah. So it seems to read that we can enter anywhere to go and get the warrant according to the sections.
I think if you read section 66.122 and 123, they're going to reference just what I'm talking about, R3s and businesses.
Okay.
I think if you look at those statutes, that's what it's referencing in there. We have no authority to walk in somebody's house and do a fire inspection, nor to request it. R2 and below, we can't. That's in statute. R3 and above when it comes to housing properties, and then any business that's open for the public to enter. And that's not even businesses, churches, businesses, offices, anything the public can enter into and could be at liability, at the risk that the owner or the business owner has not taken proper action on the fire codes that are in statute. So.
All right. Thank you.
Is that it?
Yep.
Tom? Questions, comments?
I'll just say that having read through it a couple times and whatever, I thought it was mostly a cleanup or whatever, as the chief was saying, thing in there. And nothing caught my eye as being that it shouldn't be. I just asked the question, Chief, why is it R3 and R2 or duplex or something wouldn't be included?
That's what's cited in statute.
Yeah.
I think R2 it could be that the resident, the owner is in there and has the other side rented out to one person. For whatever reason, it's R3 and above is what's in statute, so.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Dennis, go ahead.
Chief, I'd like to go back on your burn barrels just for a moment. Now, you gave a lot of explanation as to why it should be discontinued, but I thought in your very first presentation, it sounded like it might be possible that under some circumstances, you might be able to get a burning permit. Is that
I think I know what
true
you're.
or not, or?
I think I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the burning for certain papers that I
No, I'm
talked
just
about?
looking under that 7A, under burn barrels. Yeah, I know what you, yeah, I heard what you said,
So
you know.
basically, you're not allowed to burn anything but clean, dry firewood in the city of Wisconsin Rapids in a fire ring. But we do have an exemption in there for papers that could have like your routing numbers for your bank or have some legal ramifications. We're still giving you the ability to be able to burn those papers, but in very small quantities. So maybe somebody can't get it to somebody to shred, or they don't want that to go to, you know, a shredder. They feel like that's going to violate their privacy. We're still giving you the option to be able to burn those papers. Now, if you're going to be doing that every day for 365 days, somebody's going to question it. But if you're burning true legal documents that could hinder your privacy, you still have the ability to do that.
Well, in that case, then could you still have that burn barrel and burn in there if that's what you wanted to do? If you didn't have a wood burner or anything like that in the house for burning your papers up?
Well, you can do that in your fire pit or in a small above-ground fire pit or whatever. So you're going to have to show me, somebody would have to show me where they're keeping their burning barrel just to burn their legal documents once every 5 years or 3 years or whatever it is that they're getting rid of their legal documents. And even in here, don't quote me wrong, but they're supposed to be getting a permit for it. And like I said, nobody's ever gotten a permit for a burning barrel, as long as I know, for the last 18 years. And I think it's because you cannot burn anything but clean, dry firewood. You can't burn paper, you can't burn cardboard, you can't burn lawn clippings, you can't burn, you know, leaves. And we actually tell people, if you want to use a little bit of that to get your fire going, that's fine. But, you know, if we pull up and you got a whole burning ring full of it, you know, we're going to ask questions on why that's all full of all that, so.
Okay, so then basically a person, if they do have a barrel there, they probably better get rid of it? Is that what we're really saying here?
Well, I don't know if I have the authority to tell anybody they got to get rid of a burning barrel or a barrel in their backyard, but if they start to use it for burning papers and things like that that aren't legal documents, then they would be.
Yeah, I follow you, what you're saying. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Comments or questions? What are the wishes of the committee?
I'll move for adoption of the ordinance amending chapters 18 of the fire code.
I'll second that. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Tom, did you throw your eye in there?
I think I did.
Okay, thank you. Those opposed? Ayes have it, 3-0. Item number 4, discuss the date and time for trick or treat in the city for 2023 and possible future years. So I've been contacted the last 2 years in a row about the possibility of moving trick or treat to the Saturday before, if it falls during the week. I think the argument is it's school nights, it's a lot for the kids, on and on and on. I don't know if there's anybody here to address this tonight. Go ahead.
Once again, Tom Hughes, 541 Canal Street. I have 3 children. Obviously, one is a teenager, probably too old to actually go out and get the candy. But one of the things that we've noticed with our families is that whether it be in this community or others, we're using the trick or treats or the events that are being put at either the schools or the churches. The only time we actually go through the neighborhoods with the children is if the house is decked out with a lot of decorations. We're not actually going down and up and down the streets. As a matter of fact, last year, the black bear that was here in town was actually down our street during the exact same time that the kids were out trick or treating. You're correct with the school nights, it's fairly difficult, but what happens at the schools is that parents are able to basically pick up their kids and stay right there in the parking lot and carry out the trick or treat from, say, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. So they're not actually going home, coming back. They're staying in a secure parking lot. In the past, obviously, as I was growing up, it was common practice to run around, gallivant around the neighborhoods to find every house that has a porch light on to get candy. I think times have changed to the point where people need to have more security. They're not going to strangers' houses to get candy anymore. They're going to the more organized events, whether it be at the police department, at the different schools, churches, like I said. So the times that it is occurring, I think it should be extended a little bit longer so that for the older kids, say 9, 10, 11 years old, they can go out after dusk and cover these areas where right now I believe the time shuts down before it even gets dark. That's kind of the surprise, I guess, that the kids get, or the excitement that they get, is to be out after dark with the ghosts and goblins. I think that the prior Saturday before our 4th of July, other areas around us, such as Stevens Point, they're already practicing that. So families will actually hit up 2 or 3 different areas before actually trick-or-treating in Rapids. So they get more candy for their kids. If we put it the same Saturday, obviously it's just reducing the amount of candy for the kids with that.
Thank you. I guess I can make the argument that after I talked to this lady on the phone, that kind of brought back a few memories of piling kids in cars and going to see grandparents in costumes, and the next thing you know, it's 9 o'clock, and you're talking about pretty small kids here, so, I don't know, I can support this. I think it's probably, something for the council to discuss or decide, but, I think she has a valid argument, and I'll make a motion to approve, that trick or treat be moved to the Saturday before, the actual Halloween date. For every year. Is there a second to my motion?
I'll second the motion. I guess my take on it is I wouldn't mind, I don't know, getting more input. Like I feel we can take this to the council and see what the council says.
agree.
Between now and then, I'll talk to more people about what their thoughts are, I suppose.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 2-1. I guess item number 5 is adjournment. There's a
Second.
motion and a second to adjourn. Meeting adjourns at 5:58. Thank you.